Welcome. Welcome to the 487th Convocation of the University of Chicago. We are happy that you could be here to celebrate the induction of Robert J. Zimmer as the 13th President of the University of Chicago, and to recognize the achievements of the men and women who will receive honorary degrees today. Will you please remain standing as the invocation is delivered by the Dean of the Chapel?
Source and end of all we cherish, we are grateful today for the intellectual community we serve and for the challenge ever before us to uncover new facts, to broaden the borders of knowledge, and to transfer wisdom from one generation to the next. In our pursuit of truths and of truth, may we be ever mindful of the sacrifices of those who have gone before us, who proclaimed a new thing at great cost. Let us be honest, courageous, generous, and fair. Let us reach for more than we dare to dream of, and so be enlivened by ideas that stretch the limits of our imagination. May our new president and each of us live out our deepest commitments, and so advance not simply human knowledge, but the human community.
A few moments ago, you heard me welcome you to this, the 487th Convocation of the University of Chicago. What is this thing we call convocation? Our first convocation was on January 2nd, 1893. It was a gathering of the faculty, students, staff, and trustees of the university, led by our founding president, William Rainey Harper. This was at the beginning of the second academic term of the university. There had been no formal ceremony when the first students began their coursework in the preceding fall. Harper, wanting classes beginning on October 1, 1892, to appear to the university community and its friends as if it were the continuation of a work which had been conducted for 1,000 years. And so it was. There was no initial meeting, and thus the assembly in early January was the first gathering of the university community. Harper named it Convocation, a coming together of people assembling for a special purpose. It was soon agreed that there would be such a convocation each quarter. It would be held at the end of each academic term, and so it has since 1893. At that first convocation, Harper set forth his goals for it, and those have remained the goals for all of them: to grant degrees, to look forward together as one to look forward to the opportunities and necessities of the future, and to come together as one university, acknowledging that while it has several parts, it is one community. And these have remained the goals of our convocations ever since. Degrees are granted, as they will be today. Together this morning, we will look forward to the future opportunities as outlined for us by Robert Zimmer. And the several parts of the university, together with our friends from other institutions, from learned societies, and from the city of Chicago, gather together to affirm our participation in this great institution. So we continue with the word convocation. We do not use the word commencement for our degree-granting ceremonies, something which is often puzzling to our students and their families. We prefer the traditions the name has for us, and it also provides us with opportunities to have special convocations in addition to the term-ending graduation ones, such as the 287th at the opening of our new law quadrangle, and the 423rd at the time of our centennial. And today is such a special convocation, a very important special convocation, our 487th convocation since 1893. All of us are delighted to participate in this convocation at which Robert J. Zimmer is being inaugurated as our president. I now have the pleasure to introduce James S. Crown, the chairman of our Board of Trustees, the University of Chicago. Mr. Crown will perform the induction of the president.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I'd like to welcome you here today on this special occasion. We've been joined in this wonderful space by many members and friends of the university community. It's a grand tradition at such events that we're also joined by presidents and representatives of colleges and universities, as well as delegates of learned societies from throughout the United States and around the world. In a few moments, it will be my pleasure to present you with our new president. At various prior occasions in the past few months, I've had the opportunity to discuss the process that led us to Bob Zimmer. Those remarks gave me a chance to elaborate on the extraordinarily high standards we set for this position, the difficulty of the job itself, and I usually went on to describe our great satisfaction with the results of our search. I do not intend to repeat those comments here. Similarly, I will not repeat the impressive list of Bob Zimmer's qualifications and accomplishments over the past several decades. Our new president is well known to us here at the university, and many of us have been admiring fans of a stellar career for quite some time. Instead, I'd like to reflect on a different aspect of the search. Our committee consisted of 11 university trustees and 7 faculty advisors. The faculty represented an array of disciplines from across the campus. I think all of us engaged in the presidential search found our collaborative efforts to be among the most fascinating and rewarding tasks we could have ever imagined. Speaking for the 11 trustees, the opportunity to work with our faculty counterparts was an extraordinary learning experience. Not only did it provide us with insight into what can or might make a university great, we were part of a high-level 7-month seminar on what makes this university great. We all know the synopsis: commitment to scholarship, respect for thinking, taking precedence over presumptions about the thinker, courage in the face of orthodoxy, and a tireless conviction that serious ideas do matter and can make a difference. All of these values were woven into our deliberations. All of these values led us to Bob Zimmer. The committee finished its work confident that Bob's extraordinary blend of experience, ability, and commitment would combine to give us a great president. This is another item I feel we can add to the list of great accomplishments achieved at the University of Chicago, that this institution was able to identify and recruit a talented young math professor and provide him with the colleagues and professional environment to grow into an outstanding scholar, administrator, and leader. On behalf of the trustees on the search committee, and indeed the entire board, I would like to thank our friends from the faculty and the search committee for your significant and instructive role in this process. We are all so much the richer for it. In preparing for today's ceremony, I had the opportunity to review the remarks of my predecessors as they introduced Hannah Gray, Hugo Sonnenschein, and Don Randall in this very chapel. The three former presidents are sitting immediately behind me, and I would like now to thank and acknowledge their many wonderful contributions to this university. The chairman's speech at those three induction ceremonies all made the same point, that today is a celebration. As an official act, Bob has been our president since last July. It would be a more accurate statement to say he's been on the job in earnest since last spring. So, as others have observed, there will be no oaths of office taken today. There will be no official rites. Instead, we are here to celebrate. We celebrate our collective ability as an institution to stand for something serious and important. We celebrate our commitment to making a contribution to the body of knowledge that is available to the world. We celebrate the wonderful people, friends and supporters, students and faculty, alumni and administration, who keep the university vital and moving forward. And today, most importantly, we celebrate our leaders. Please welcome our 13th president, Robert J. Zimmer.
On January 2nd, 1893, the University of Chicago convened its opening convocation, Convocation number 1. As you have heard from our marshal, and as you see in your program, this is Convocation 487. So quite a bit has happened here since that winter day in 1893. And if we take ourselves back to the university in its early years, we would find many major differences from what we observe today. We would see remarkably different course offerings, research agendas, institutional organization, educational programs, and social, political, and global environments. We would discover familiar buildings, but find them situated within a very different physical landscape in a barely recognizable city and urban environment. And we would not see a vast array of now familiar schools, departments, centers, institutes, intellectual endeavors, student activities, and community connections that are the focus of abundant energy and enthusiasm today. And yet, many of us connected to this university feel that we might just as easily have been there, that going back to the university in its early days, or in fact at any time since its inception, we would know unmistakably that we were at the University of Chicago. And why is this? The University of Chicago, from its very inception, has been driven by a singular focus on inquiry, with a firm belief in the value of open, rigorous, and intense inquiry, and a common understanding that this must be the defining feature of this university. Everything about the University of Chicago that we recognize as distinctive flows from this commitment. Our belief that argumentation rather than deference is the route to clarity, our insistence that arguments stand or fall on their merits, not the background position or fame of the proponent, a flexible organization for fostering rigorous and imaginative analysis of complex problems from multiple perspectives, and our education that embeds learning in a culture of intense inquiry and analysis, thereby offering the most empowering education to students irrespective of the path they may ultimately take. Our commitment to attracting the most original agenda-setting faculty and students who can benefit most and contribute most to our environment. And our recognition that our important contributions to society rest on the power of our ideas and the openness of our environment to developing and testing ideas. These enduring values and fundamental principles of the university have shaped our culture, have informed generations of faculty, students, and administrators. They are so visible, so deeply embedded, and so define our environment in the past as well as the present, that with all the tangible changes in the university between Convocations 1 and 487, we believe we would recognize this university at any time in its history. At the University of Chicago, we know who we are as an institution. The words open, rigorous, and intense are easy to say, but one should not underestimate the challenges in actually creating, preserving, and enhancing such an environment. There is scant evidence that open, rigorous, and intense inquiry is the natural state of humankind. Openness alone is difficult. Even in institutions that prize it, sustaining openness is very demanding of members of a community. It requires listening when one is full of passionate conviction, a willingness to challenge one's fundamental assumptions, and respecting the arguments of those you strongly disagree with. And it entails fostering a community, as a community, freedom of thought, expression, and argument when many forces, intentional or not, may align to create chilling effects. And difficult as it is to achieve being open is not enough. One needs the intellectual and emotional fortitude for rigor, the intensity to relentlessly pursue argument, and the imagination to see connections that transcend accepted understanding. It is a special environment in which these are the primary values, and it is a very special university which embraces these values as its core and has succeeded in sustaining and enhancing these values over its lifetime. Now, while these are large principles, they play out in the work of individuals in the university community day in and day out. How the faculty approach their scholarship and teaching, how the students approach their education, how the administration and staff approach their responsibilities, how the trustees provide their oversight and support, how the alumni connect to the university and what they value about their experience, how our friends understand the distinctive contribution that the university makes. These actions and decisions of the university community, as individuals and as a collective, reaffirm and renew our fundamental principles every day. The greatest long-term challenges to this environment are the inevitable and always formidable countervailing pressures of ease, accommodation, and complacency. Thus, the university's ability to remain steadfastly committed to sustaining its values is a tribute to all those who have been part of and contributed to the university community over the years. It is a legacy whose value we must always reaffirm, and it is a community which I am proud and enthusiastic to rejoin. The culture these values have created, which permeates the foundations of every one of our schools, divisions, and the college, has had a profound impact because of the power of ideas generated by our faculty and students. The Chicago name has been synonymous with defining academic disciplines, schools, and modes of thought, and the university has had a transformative impact on economics, science, energy production, medicine, law, business, historical, cultural, and literary analysis, religion, policy, and more. And it has had a profound impact on individuals who have been connected to the university. We have trained college students, graduate students, and professional students with intensity and with rigor, and for generations, they have been empowered by this education and way of analyzing our world to become leaders in virtually every area of endeavor. And this impact on scholarship, on society, and on individuals is a clear demonstration of the power of the idea of the University of Chicago itself and the principles and values that guide us. Now, I have known this about the University of Chicago for a long time, but it has a particular salience for me right now. One of the things one hears as you become president of a university is just how complicated the job is. Everyone is quick to point out that there are so many constituencies: faculty, students, staff, trustees, parents, alumni, friends, patients, the community, the city, the federal government, and so many tasks: ensuring academic programs flourish, recruiting the best faculty and students, building buildings, raising money, meeting with alumni, representing and protecting the university, dealing with globalization as well as changing technology, addressing diversity, working with the community and the federal government, balancing the budget, overseeing management not only of what is usually identified with a university, but in our case also a major hospital, a major national laboratory, the largest academic press in the country, a major private K-12 school, a charter school with 3 campuses, and an array of important institutional and personal relationships in the city and beyond. And while it is true that these are all features of this presidency, and in fact very important features, none captures its most central role. My core responsibility as the president of the University of Chicago is and has to be to ensure that the university realizes its enduring values and fundamental principles in the most powerful and lasting way possible. So let me then turn to the future by first looking back again to see the lessons of change since 1893 in the context of enduring values. With the clarity of enduring values and principles, the university evolved through the often tumultuous transformations of the last century. Many at the university seized the opportunities and confronted the challenges presented by cultural, social, scientific, intellectual, political, institutional, and technological change. This includes the legendary figures who visibly forged the university's history, but also many whose contributions have a quieter place in legend. Their collective contributions have brought us to where we are today. And what is the lesson of this history of a university with such a clear set of enduring values? It is not that our predecessors discovered the right shape of the university once and for all, but rather that the university has flourished because those who preceded us acted with boldness, imagination, and discipline. They advanced the university and its values for the long run by making changes within the context of the opportunities and challenges of their time. Enduring values have been the guide to action, not a sanctuary for complacency. Enduring values have not been and should not be confused with enduring answers. And it falls upon us, the University of Chicago community of the present day, to act within the context of our enduring values with the same boldness, imagination, and discipline, to seize the opportunities and confront the challenges of our time. To sustain enduring values, we must anticipate and embrace appropriate change. The opportunities that we now face inspire imagination, though the challenges are significant. There are many questions we must answer, and the entire university academic community will need to be involved. As examples, how should we bring our analytic capacity, history, and culture so conducive to confronting problems from a variety of perspectives to bear in new and imaginative ways to contribute to the understanding of complex social, economic, and intellectual problems of our times? How do we participate and lead in the remarkable ongoing transformations in science, the revolution in biomedicine, the advent of computation as a conceptual tool, and the breakdown of the boundary between science as the study of natural phenomena and engineering as the study of man-made artifacts? How do we advance the arts on campus and articulate the relationship between critical analysis, performance and production, and the connection to the city? How should our college, graduate, and professional education evolve to reflect shifting paradigms of inquiry across the disciplines? How do we ensure that our scholarly community is comprised of a rich mix of individuals who, through their own diverse experience, background, and viewpoints, contribute to the intellectually challenging culture of the university? How do we continue to support our graduate students who are such an important component of our intellectual culture? How do we continue to enhance the programs in the college, which has seen such a remarkable renaissance, and continue to ensure access to a Chicago education independent of family financial capacity? How do we benefit most and contribute most to our partnerships with Argonne, with the Field Museum, the Chicago Public Schools, the Museum of Science and Industry, the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, and others? How do we approach international aspects of education in the context of globalization and build upon the Graduate School of Business programs and facilities in Singapore and London, and our university facility and programs in Paris? What is our strategy for simultaneously enhancing clinical medical care and biomedical research? How should our relationship with the Southside community, the city, and the region evolve? How do we communicate better with our friends, alumni, and external constituents to describe our culture and our achievements? And how do we generate the resources necessary to support all we must do in order for Chicago to remain a distinctive leading institution and advance our capabilities for the future? Our responses to these and other questions will shape the legacy that we leave as a community. And as we consider these questions and others, we know that the nature of this university demands that our answers always echo our enduring values and fundamental principles and display a level of ambition for the future that reflects our history of achievement. And for this, we must be willing to take bold steps. Every member of this university community has benefited from the variety of important contributions of those who preceded us. To respond to the questions and challenges of our time, to successfully articulate and implement an ambitious agenda for the university, every component of the university community must contribute to this effort so that those who follow us will benefit because of our work. 2,400 years ago, the Greek historian Thucydides described his own work as designed not to win the applause of the moment, but as a possession for all time. Let us take Thucydides' challenge to himself upon ourselves and approach the legacy that has been entrusted to us and the future of the University of Chicago with equal aspiration. Thank you.
At this time, in the favoring presence of the congregation here assembled, the sponsors of the honorary degree candidates will present the candidates for honorary degrees to the president of the university.
Sandra M. Faber is the leading investigator in the field of galaxy formation and evolution. By acquiring important new observations and with brilliant analysis of data, she discovered key relationships between the shapes of galaxies and the properties of their stars. She and her colleagues used the Hubble Space Telescope to study the central regions of galaxies and discovered that the mass of the central black hole is well correlated with that of the surrounding galaxy. This result suggests a deeper relationship than had been expected between structures on such vastly different scales. Thanks to her leadership in design and construction of the DEIMOS spectrograph, one of the most powerful instruments of the Keck 10-meter telescopes, she and her colleagues have obtained detailed information about galaxies that are so remote that the light we see from them has been traveling for many billions of years. Mr. President, on behalf of the University of Chicago, I have the honor to present Sandra M. Faber for the degree of Doctor of Science.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science. I now present you with the diploma and the hood of the university and welcome you to the ancient and honorable company of scholars of the University of Chicago.
Like a true poet or muse, Michael Fried has brought new worlds into being. He has given us a way of seeing art that is visually profound, philosophically rich, and morally consequential. The powerful interpretive framework that he has developed throughout his career addresses how art positions the beholder by its own absorptive or theatrical structures. Few art historians have created such a bold, original, coherent, and utterly focused body of work. From his early criticism of modernist art, his prize-winning studies of 18th century French painting and criticism, and of Manet's modernism and painting in the 1860s, and of Eakins and Crane to Courbet, Menzel, and his recent engagements with art in the 1600s and contemporary photography, Professor Fried has brilliantly explored how art gives access to the history of human sensibility. His work combines vast historical erudition with the technical language of art criticism without limiting itself to either. Fried's work is known and admired across an impressive range of disciplines in art history, but also in literature, cinema, photography, philosophy, and contemporary art criticism. He is a talented poet, a wonderful interlocutor, and a much appreciated teacher. Mr. President, on behalf of the University of Chicago, I have the honor to present Michael Fried for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. I now present you with the diploma and hood of the university and welcome you to the ancient and honorable company of scholars of the University of Chicago.
Alex Lubatsky is one of the world's leading mathematicians in the field of discrete groups and their applications in diverse directions. His work connects number theory and geometry to combinatorics and computer science. Its applications range from the symmetry of spaces modeled on non-Euclidean geometries to the design of computer chips and telephone networks. Within group theory, he is known for his outstanding work on profinite groups, that is, the class of groups that can be known via their finite images. These include his deep theories of subgroup growth, the Lubatsky alternative, and his criterion for linearity, which is a criterion for determining when an abstractly defined group can be understood concretely via matrices. Further, his work both exploits probabilistic ideas in new realms and illuminates the interaction of rigid arithmetic objects and the random ones. Professor Lubatsky plays with deep ideas. Every black box must be tinkered with. No hypothesis is too sacred to be examined. Both general theories and peculiar examples are his playground. Individually, his papers are gems, and collectively they present a deep and prolonged investigation of some of the most basic mathematical objects. These ideas, always carefully and beautifully presented, continually open new directions for us. Mr. President, on behalf of the University of Chicago, I have the honor to present Alexander Lubatsky for the degree of Doctor of Science.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science. I now present you with the diploma and hood of the university and welcome you to the ancient and honorable company of scholars of the University of Chicago.
Hazel Rose Marcus has played a major role in the development of two fields within social psychology while working creatively within a rigorous experimental framework. Her early work on the self and self-schema produced a group of papers that are among the most widely cited of any social psychologist and have altered the discipline of social psychology forever, as she has demonstrated the varying construction of the self have an impact on perception and cognition. She also stands at the center of the remarkable revival of cultural psychology as a major disciplinary field. Unlike others for whom culture is the sum of a few variables plugged into an equation, Professor Marcus has also been able to bring a subtle and highly nuanced understanding to working with cultural differences. Her work in this area gave legitimacy to highly innovative work among other social psychologists. Mr. President, on behalf of the University of Chicago, I have the honor to present Hazel Marcus for the degree of Doctor of Science.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science. I now present you with the diploma and hood of the university and welcome you to the ancient and honorable company of scholars of the University of Chicago.
Harm Pinkster is the world's leading authority on Latin linguistics. His 1971 dissertation on Latin adverbs was the first sustained demonstration of the promise of a new approach to Latin syntax. In an era of new theoretical frameworks in general linguistic theory sprouting everywhere, Professor Pinkster showed a keen awareness of the advantages and drawbacks of the most important ones, and came down on the side of functionalism, finding inspiration in contemporary linguistics and in demanding a more principled accounting for the data. The Latin syntax, which he is now writing, builds upon knowledge going back to ancient times and will present the culmination of work done by him and his colleagues in the current generation. It will be the reference grammar for this century, if not beyond. His accomplishments, commitment to the field, and general humanity are an example to all who know him. Mr. President, on behalf of the University of Chicago, I have the honor to present Harm Pinkster for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. I now present you with the diploma and hood of the university and welcome you to the ancient and honorable company of scholars of the University of Chicago.
Alan C. Spradling is a distinguished biologist who has made major contribution to our basic knowledge of animal development. He discovered that genes for chorion proteins were amplified as a mechanism to produce large quantities of proteins rapidly. With Gerald Rubin, he developed a method to modify the Drosophila genome in a defined manner by manipulating a naturally occurring transposable element. This method has been central to our current advances in understanding the genetic control of development in Drosophila and has become the model for similar work in other organisms. More recently, Alan Spradling has advanced our understanding of the cues responsible for maintaining stem cells and the critical role played by supporting cells in stem cell function. He has been a stellar member of the scientific community and a role model for integrity and generosity in the conduct of science. Since his days as an outstanding student in physics in our college, he has become that rare scientist who intuitively grasps the commonality of biological systems and their complexity, and he continues to nurture other young scientists to do the same. Mr. President, on behalf of the University of Chicago, I have the honor to present Alan C. Spradling for the degree of Doctor of Science.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science. I now present you with the diploma and hood of the university and welcome you to the ancient and honorable company of scholars of the University of Chicago.
Karen B. Stryer is a quintessential model of the scholarly, creative, pioneering research scientist, mentor, classroom instructor, public lecturer, academic administrator, and prolific, lucid, constructively critical author. Her quarter-century of research on monkeys in the endangered Atlantic forest of Brazil not only provided insights into the complexity of constructing scenarios of human and other primate social behavioral evolution and socioecological models, but also served as a major foundation for conservation science and the development of a large core of professional Brazilian scientists who will lead neotropical primatology, forest ecology, evolutionary anthropology, and conservation for many future generations. Mr. President, on behalf of the University of Chicago, I am delighted to present Karen B. Stryer for the degree of Doctor of Science.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science. I now present you with the diploma and hood of the university and welcome you to the ancient and honorable Company of Scholars of the University of Chicago.
welcomes on behalf of students, faculty, and alumni will now be presented. I would like to introduce Ian Joffrey Milhauser, President of Student Government, Robert B. Pippin, Professor of the Committee on Social Thought, the Department of Philosophy in the College, and Chair of the Faculty Advisory Committee to the Presidential Search Committee, and John McGinn, President of the Alumni Association Board of Governors.
Welcome. As the President of Student Government, I speak for the students of the University of Chicago. I am honored to be here at the inauguration of our new president. However, we are here for more than the formal admission of a university official. We are also here for a reception. One word comes from our Latin term for take back. To receive is to retake, to be taken back. What is new takes us back. As we receive our new president, let us return to our original ideals, values, and goals. So as we welcome and prepare for what is new, let our origins be recovered, refreshed, and revived. Robert Zimmer himself is returning to his own origins, being received by the university where he was once professor. Of course, we are here for much more than to be taken back. We look towards our future. Our word inauguration also comes from Latin, from the term for that which is interpreted as omens, from the flight of birds. We are the creators and interpreters of our collective future here at this university, in the institution of higher education, and in the world. We look for omens of new possibilities, observing the changing colors, the falling of leaves, and the flight of birds. We are the augurs of a new season. We stir with the anticipation of new opportunities, ready ourselves for new perspectives. As a student and as the voice of the students here at the University of Chicago, I welcome our new president. Robert Zimmer, hold us accountable to our highest aspirations.
I enjoyed the great privilege of being the chair of the faculty side, the advisory side, of the Joint Faculty Trustee Presidential Search Committee. And it is in that capacity that I have the honor of welcoming President Zimmer on behalf of all the faculty. The existence of this office and of this committee itself already says something important about our university that's worth recalling in this context. Unlike almost all other research universities, the University of Chicago does not hire a professional search firm when we need a new president. We don't, not to save the university thousands of dollars, not an insignificant issue at a university that's always had to be frugal, but because everyone involved on both the faculty and the trustee side simply takes for granted the uniqueness of the university, and so the extreme difficulty of making someone from the outside understand the distinct traditions and self-understandings of the community here, and so the special needs and demands of an institution unlike any other. Instead of such so-called professional help, the faculty elect a search committee, and these colleagues begin working with a selected group of trustees, meeting separately and together over several months. The process involves both searching for candidates on our own and considering and vetting hundreds of nominations, every one of which is considered, however bizarre. Confidentiality prevents me revealing the list of bizarre candidates we have. You would be quite surprised. We divide up into faculty trustee teams and interview faculty and administrators here and at other universities, and eventually the chair of the board and the chair of the faculty committee fly to various institutions and interview candidates there. We try to achieve unanimous consensus and so end up, after so many months, immensely relieved when, as in this case, we are fortunate enough to find exactly the right person for the job. Now, for the most part, despite occasional appearances to the contrary, the faculty here knows that it does not own, nor run and administer the university. Enough said. But the power of tradition is such that these mere facts are often ignored, or at least infrequently acknowledged. And as the existence of this unusual committee indicates, the faculty come to care in a very direct way about who becomes our president. This is a university, we like to think, that defines itself not by rankings or numbers of research dollars or the celebrity of its faculty, but by the values it embodies and defends, and our president is the public representative of these values. And so for both symbolic and substantive reasons, it matters to us who this person is, and we are also especially relieved when, as in this case, we find someone who understands and shares and can articulate and defend these values. It's a great reassuring bonus when that person is also one of our own, already a trusted member of the family. We are invested in this choice for another reason unique to this university. It is said that in every generation of a great civilization, there was always a group of reflective, thoughtful members subject to a great anxiety, who worry constantly that everything of real value in that civilization is in great danger of being lost, that the signs of civilizational decline are everywhere. It can also be said that at the University of Chicago, in every generation, almost everyone worries almost all the time that everything of value that the university represents is in great imminent danger of being lost or permanently forgotten. It can seem that as long as there has been a University of Chicago, it has seen itself as teetering on the brink of an abyss, subject to the temptations of all the anti-U of C vices, beset by our own axis of evil tendencies. The temptations of mindless specialization, rampant professionalism and careerism among the faculty, vocationalism, fad following and trendiness in academic fashion, creeping country clubism in the undergraduate community, all the impure influences on the properly monastic life of the mind. As you already know, such anxieties can develop very often into full-blown obsessive-compulsive disorders. And so it can sometimes seem impossible here to avoid the trip flares and booby traps that such anxieties can create. But this emotional investment by the faculty in the values underlying the university's self-image has an enormous upside as well. For a president who shares and wants to protect and contribute to the flourishing of such values, such a culture can also create great and passionate loyalty, energy, and willingness to contribute to the common good. We know that we have found such a president. We are ready to go to work with you, and we are immensely grateful that you have agreed to take on such a complicated task. We have every possible confidence in the fit between our rather anxious expectations and hopes and your commitments, experience, and extraordinary talents. On behalf of all of the faculty, thank you and welcome home.
Good morning. I am John McGinn, an alumnus of the College and the Graduate School of Business and president of the university's Alumni Board of Governors. President Zimmer, on behalf of Chicago's 137,000 alumni worldwide, I welcome you back to this proud, strong, and engaged community. Chicago alumni are a vibrant source of lifelong support and advocacy for the university. We are, by tradition and training, independent and individual. However, we are united by our passion for critical thinking, our love of discourse, our energy for change, and our appreciation of the education that we receive from the University of Chicago. We are delighted to have you back. and we look forward to working closely with you to build alumni connections, involvement, and support for our beloved alma mater. Welcome. And now please stand while the Motet and Rockefeller Chapel choirs sing the alma mater. Those who wish to are invited to join in with the singing, and the words of the alma mater are printed in your program book.
And now may our new president and each of us be filled with courage, compassion, wisdom, and integrity. May our every thought, word, and action contribute to a university and a world not satisfied with its own achievements, but hungry to discover more and to secure the well-being of all people. May peace be within us and among us all.
Leute, das ist so. Ja.